Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our talk, Patch Me If You Can, Tackling Outdated Add-ons Before They Become a Risk. My name is Stevie Caldwell, and I am a tech lead for the SRE team at Fairwinds. I forgot to thank you. At Fairwinds, we build and manage Kubernetes clusters, add-ons, and the underlying infrastructure. And joining me today is Andy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy. Thanks for joining us here early in the morning for some of us, depending on what you did last night. I am the CTO at Fairwinds. I'm a CNCF ambassador, former policy working group co-chair, and author and maintainer of Pluto and Goldilocks, which are some open source tools that we have at Fairwinds. Stevie will not tell you because she's too humble, but she's also the author and maintainer of another open source project at Fairwinds called Go No Go, which we will mention a little bit later. And we're just super excited to have spent the last 9 years contributing open source to the CNCF and to be here talking with you all about what we do to manage add-ons and some advice that we can give you all to keep your infrastructure up to date.
Yeah. So I'm going to quickly go over the agenda. It's a very quick 4-part agenda. We're going to talk about why add-ons matter. We're going to talk about vulnerability trends that we're seeing in our space. We're going to talk about the operational struggle of managing add-ons. And then we're going to leave you with some best practices and tools and ideas for tackling those struggles yourself.
I think there was a joke you wanted to tell me.
Yeah,
earlier.
So before we get started, though, I needed to ask you an important question. What do you call a computer floating in the ocean?
Computer floating in the ocean. I don't know. Anybody know?
Adele rolling in the deep?
Nice. That's good. That's good.
Thank you. All right, so let's start with talking about why add-ons matter. What are they? Why do we have them? I'm going to take you on a journey, and you all are going to be the person, the core character in this journey. You wrote an application. It's your big, awesome application, and you're very excited to share it with the world. And you talked to someone, and they said, you should run this in a Kubernetes cluster. So you deploy a Kubernetes cluster, and you deploy your baseline cluster, right? So you have your control plane, and you have your data plane. And the control plane, as we know, has all the components that manage the cluster to take care of state reconciliation, scheduling, all that stuff, exposes API endpoints. And your data plane is where your worker nodes run, and that's where your pods are gonna run. So you deploy your pods, and they're sitting there, and they're running. And this is where your first interaction with add-ons comes in, because it's kind of weird that it's called an add-on because it's not really optional, but you need a container network interface in order for your pods to be able to communicate, for the underlying networking in your cluster to work properly, right? So this is your first decision point and your first interaction with add-ons. So you choose an add-on, and then you have that working. So now your pods are happy, they're talking to each other, everything's great, and you're like, I'm ready for people to see my awesome work. I'm ready to expose this to the outside world. Here's your next interaction with add-ons. You need to decide on an ingress controller for your cluster. Now, technically, you could use a service type of load balancer, but you're typically not going to do this, especially in a production environment. You don't want to manage a bunch of individual load balancer services and things like that, so you're going to choose an ingress controller. Now that you have traffic coming in, you're concerned about security, encryption, certificates. You're thinking about what kind of add-on you can use for TLS. And now everyone's using your very awesome big app, and you want to know, you want to be able to see what's going on in your cluster. You want to know if things are going wrong, and then you want to have the information you need to be able to effectively troubleshoot if something's going on. So Andy's counting off on his fingers because here we have a very baby cluster, and we already have like 5, 6, 10 add-ons that we're thinking about, and that we have to manage. So add-ons, despite the name, which makes it sound like they're just kind of like nice to have, are actually really integral to fulfilling the promise of Kubernetes and all the things that we expect out of it. The scalability, the efficiency, the security, all those things are, we need add-ons to accomplish a lot of that.
Observability and security are optional, right? Just nice to have.
I mean, for your big, awesome app, you might not care, I don't know. But I would hope that you would care. And I would hope your big awesome app is so popular that you do need to care about scaling and you're not just running it on one node. I wish that for you. It also helps engineers be more efficient in how we manage these clusters, right? So we're not spending cycles manually updating DNS records or manually requesting and renewing certificates and things like that, right? But with this, means that a lot of these add-ons have some pretty deep and high-level permissions in order to do the things that they need to do. I'll give you a couple examples here. This is an RBAC definition, a cluster role, for an add-on that I won't say what it is because I'm not trying to, blow up anyone's spot here.
Cert manager.
But this requires this requires access to all of your cluster secrets across all namespaces, right? So we know the kinds of things that people put in cluster secrets, especially because the name secret kind of fools people into thinking that they're really secure things, and we know that they're not, just base 64 encoded. But it has access to all these secrets. So like, if you're putting your database credentials in there, that's something that it technically has access to, right? Another example here is a container security context. So this is a different add-on, not Cert Manager, not trying to put them under fire. The Cert Manager does need that access.
Yeah, no, there's a very good reason for it. We're not throwing any shade, but it is an unfortunate side effect of how it operates and what it has, that it has those level permissions.
Exactly, yeah. And so same with this add-on, so it has these capabilities. It's kind of, it has sysptrace and sysadmin called out, but it actually has privilege set to true, so it's root. Right, it has access to all the underlying features of your OS, of your hosts, all the namespaces, which is a big deal, right? So when a vulnerability comes out that affects one of these add-ons that sits in your critical path, and there's a possibility of it being exploited, it can be a bad day for you and your company if you haven't patched your add-on to address those vulnerabilities. And we've seen, I'm sure all of you have at some point experienced, a flood of CVEs from some add-on or something like that. Vulnerabilities aren't going away, and in fact, the threat is actually increasing, and Andy's gonna talk about that. Yeah,
so just to reiterate, as Stevie just said, all of these add-ons live in absolutely critical paths. Everything from eBPF kernel code running all the way to your network, into your secrets. Add-ons are really core to a cluster, and they exist in all of our critical paths. And the vulnerabilities that we're seeing in those are only increasing in number. If you have spent the last several years working anywhere adjacent to security or Kubernetes and you pay attention to CVEs, you know that's just an exponential ramp. So this is a study from Black Duck. They analyzed a whole bunch of code that contained open source code, and 86% of all of the code bases they've scanned contain open source with vulnerabilities in it. In addition to that, from 2013 to 2023, roughly aligned, not quite exactly, with the lifespan of Kubernetes, we've seen 463% growth in the number of CVEs reported in that amount of time. So this problem is just getting worse. Vulnerabilities are just expanding in number. They are something that are sort of inevitable and we always have to deal with. This is from a Sonatype analysis of the CVE database going back in time. In addition to that, because of this increasing volume of vulnerabilities, what we're seeing is the amount of time it takes us to remediate these is only increasing. You go all the way back to 2017, and if you can see that tiny little bar down there, it was like, a few days to mitigate a CVE, to remediate. And if we fast forward to just in the last year or so, we can see in some cases we're up over a year in the amount of time it takes to remediate CVEs.
I love getting CVE remediation emails from Google, from GKE.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm like, this was out like 2 years ago, but here we are.
Here we are patching it now. Yep, and we got a new version of Container OS that has it patched.
Yeah.
So this is one side of the picture. This is where the CVEs are all coming from and the amount of time it's taking us. But if we look at the other side of this, we have a ton of regulatory pressure and pressure from other bodies and institutions pushing us to remediate them faster. So if you look at executive orders, the Cyber Resilience Act, pieces of NIST and ISO 27001, this is just a selection of a few of these, but every single one of them has some sort of tie to us needing to remediate CVEs more often and faster and have a process for this. And us as operators of a Kubernetes cluster, we're stuck right in the middle of this. On one hand, we've got thousands of CVEs coming out, and on the other hand, we have people telling us we need to remediate them faster. So this is just a problem that we are going to have to get ahead of and really pay attention to going forward. And why is that so hard, Stevie?
Because life is hard. Operations is hard.
It is.
So yeah, the operational struggle is real. Why do we have such a hard time maintaining add-ons? And so I like to look at the journey of Kubernetes actually as a sort of North Star, an inspirational story, because I feel like today people upgrade Kubernetes a little more casually than they used to. People aren't falling as far behind in Kubernetes versions. And I'm going to take you all back on a journey, and I'm going to date myself a little bit. But there was once upon a time when people would deploy Kubernetes clusters and pretty much just leave them sitting there, and they would not upgrade them. Because upgrading them meant like a lot of struggle. There was a lot of difficulty in the path of upgrading for certain versions of Kubernetes, right? In the beginning, who remembers 1.5 and the etcd upgrade, right?
I try not to.
I try to not think about that a lot because it was scary. Like upgrading etcd is not great. We didn't have Valero for doing backups at that time. I knew a lot of people, a lot of engineers who just spun up a new cluster and did the migration of the workload to another cluster rather than messing around with etcd-ctl and things like that, right? Then we had, in 1.16, API removal. So it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to upgrade my cluster. It's, I have to upgrade my cluster, and I have to go search out all these manifests and make sure that they're using the right API version. And I'm waiting for maintainers of Helm charts and things to upgrade their API versions and their Helm charts. And then we did it again in 1.22 because we were like, yeah, more pain, let's do this. And so those are reasons that people like really put the brakes on upgrading their clusters because it was risky, right? And you think about how often you upgrade the things running on like your laptop, right? You hit the upgrade button on your applications, on your OS pretty easily, but that's because the
Brew upgrade's never blown up my laptop before. I don't know what you're talking about.
But we still do it, and we recognize the importance of it, right? And we know that we have to do it. But it's a smaller blast radius if you mess up your laptop versus messing up a cluster that affects your whole company. So that leads to that adds to some of the nervousness that we have about these things, right? But people are upgrading Kubernetes faster these days. This is a Datadog report from 2023 that shows just like how fast people are upgrading from one version to another. And part of the reason for this adoption of an increase in upgrading is because more people are using cloud service provider managed Kubernetes clusters. And the cloud service providers are saying, yeah, you have to get on board with what we're doing, or we're going to charge you a lot of money, right? So you either you're forced to update your data plane nodes to stay within the number of versions that's allowable for what the data plane has been, or the control plane has been updated to, or you're going to pay a lot of money. And then you have to explain to your CFO or your CTO why the AWS bill has increased so much and why you didn't upgrade your cluster.
I know it's a bit controversial, but I actually really love that this happened because, as you said, in the older days, a lot of times we would just let
olden
things
days,
sit.
how dare you?
How long have you been at Fairwinds? We would just let clusters sit and not upgrade them. But what we've really seen over the last couple of years is this forcing function from, particularly Amazon, to push us to upgrade our clusters. And I think it's going to lead into a little bit of what I'm going to say later, but I think this is really positive in general. The odds of us seeing an LTS in the near future is probably not likely, and I might argue that we shouldn't. And so let's get in the habit of upgrading stuff.
Yep.
Hey.
And so some of the struggles that we have with add-ons, we've seen how we've progressed through treating Kubernetes upgrades a little more casually. Add-ons we struggle with because of a number of reasons that I've set down here, right? So there's the set it and forget it syndrome, which we've all been probably a party to, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Unless it's causing pain, unless it's causing issues for your clients or whatever, just leave it be, right? And it falls down into the depths of your tech stack or your tech debt stack. There's complicated compatibility requirements. So I don't know how many of you remember, for example, when Cert Manager did an upgrade that changed their annotations. So it wasn't like, I'm just gonna upgrade Cert Manager. It was like, I have to upgrade Cert Manager, and then I have to go find all my ingress resources and make sure that those are upgraded to use the proper annotations as well. So there's like a blast radius that sometimes happens that makes upgrades a little more complicated than you would think, right? There's a manual upgrade process for a lot of these. So sometimes the Helm chart, for example, doesn't handle CRDs for you. You have to go in and upgrade those yourself. Probably the biggest pet peeve for me, one of the reasons that we did go, no go, is that release notes, there's no standardized release note format or anything like that, right? So if you've got, as we said, in a production cluster that's doing all the things you want it to do, so you've got Cert Manager, external DNS, Nginx, Ingress Controller, Keta, you name it, right? You've got all these add-ons. For each add-on, you have to go to a different place, read through the release notes, figure out if there are any breaking changes. Some of them will drill out the breaking changes with bold letters in the release notes, and some of them they're hidden on like the README, like halfway down the page, underneath the version or something like that.
And every now and then they're not even marked as breaking, and unintended consequences happen, and it ends up breaking.
Nginx. Right, so that's a lot, that's another reason that it's another barrier to upgrading your add-ons with any diligence or regular cadence. Testing and rollback, because of course you're testing all of your add-ons, right? You're not just throwing them into production, you're testing them in your staging environment, your dev environment, what have you, and then you have a rollback plan. So that's more time and planning that's required from your engineers. And the last bullet here is time, because that's what it ultimately comes down to, the time to do all this research, analysis, testing, and then to chase down all the various components that need to change for this upgrade.
Time is something we have in overwhelming quantities, right? Raise your hand if you're like, I have so much extra time at work all the time. Good, I'm glad.
Right.
And I see you're working,
yeah,
so.
Right. Like the number of laptops that I typically see open, I'm like, yeah, time.
Time.
So Andy is now going to talk us through some best practices and ways to address some of those blocks.
Yeah, some things you can do with all that overwhelming amount of time. Mm-hmm. So this quote goes way back to the original continuous delivery book. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. A coworker told it to me years ago. I say this to folks all the time when we're trying to decide, should we tackle this, should we not? And the phrase is, the part that I like, bring the pain forward. If it hurts, do it more often, right? So I would argue that just as we push to release software continuously, we should be releasing our infrastructure continuously. We should be bringing that pain of upgrades forward. At Fairwinds, we manage dozens, hundreds of clusters for folks. We upgrade every single add-on in every single cluster every month. And I know that sounds a little bit aggressive and like a lot, and it takes a lot of time. It can take a lot of time. But automation, tooling, and just having that mindset of we're just going to do this. Everything is going to get upgraded. We are going to stay at N-1 of the latest version all the time. Having that ethos within the company means that we don't fall into the pile of tech debt. We don't pile up CVEs. We get new features as they come out. And so that's, I think, the core of my argument is that we should really be doing all of these things on a rapid, recurring, immediate basis.
Yeah. I would say to add that as you, if you are upgrading continuously, it makes it much easier to maintain that velocity rather than waiting 6 months and then you have multiple jumps of a version of a thing and potentially multiple pitfalls with the different versions.
Right, exactly. You said something a minute ago. You said, I think it was actually a slip, but you said tech debt stack. So now I'm going to tell people I don't have a tech stack. I have a tech debt stack.
Tech debt stack.
I think that's great. So there are tools that can help with this, and there are automation processes that can help with this. And there's some things that we are working on at Fairwinds within our open source and within some of our software to hopefully help with this more. So we do have a series of open source tools that we've made, and there's also some in the community. So Pluto will help with those deprecated and removed API versions. If you can get in the habit of continuously scanning your infrastructure or your manifests with something like Pluto, there's other tools out there as well, to just highlight when you have deprecated and removed APIs in your code, and address those deprecated APIs before they get removed from the API, then you will be ahead of the game. That won't be painful when you hit that 116 or that 122 upgrade again. We also have a tool called Nova. This will look at all of the Helm releases and the images in your cluster and suggest new versions of those. So it'll just alert you that, hey, there's a new version available. Because not all the add-ons release all the time. Most of them do release pretty continuously, and so there's almost always a new version. But it'll let you know, and you can have it tell you if there's a new major version or a new minor version of that. So you can have, it's kind of the beginning of a pipeline to initiate these upgrades. We're working on tying both of these tools into the third tool that I'm going to talk about, which is Go No Go. This is a tool that we wrote to essentially take all that research that we do to prove out an add-on upgrade and encapsulate it into a shareable spec. So you can take breaking changes from the release notes. You can take OPA policy that identifies things that need to change, like those cert manager annotations, put them all into this bundle and run it against your cluster, and it will tell you whether it's safe to upgrade that particular add-on or not. What we're working on now is tying these tools together into a pipeline of sorts that will say, just go ahead and do the upgrade. And it'll generate these bundle files, as we call them, automatically. That's Stevie's tool. It's super cool. It's very early stages for Go No Go, but definitely go check it out.
It's my first Golang project ever, so I'm very proud of it.
It's awesome. We also, there are other tools in the community, so there's Renovate. This is a tool that will literally just go upgrade all your stuff for you in place, like automatically. It's kind of cool, kind of terrifying. But if you can run it in like a staging environment or a non-production environment, it can be really useful. There's GitHub's Dependabot. It will help you just make PRs to be like, hey, this can be upgraded. Maybe try this out. And then you have, if for those braver than I, the EKS managed add-ons, the GKE managed add-ons, they can be super easy to use. And if you don't need a ton of flexibility in your configuration, then you can just hand off the management of that to somebody else. And this isn't a pitch, but we do this for you as well. So like, if you really don't want to do it, just call us. So anyway, these are some of the tools out there. And again, we're working to pull a lot of this open source together to try and build a more complete end-to-end pipeline for how to do the research, the validation, and the testing. So keep an eye out for more of that from Fairwinds. So to summarize, do your research, do your analysis. Look through those release notes. It is super important. That is currently the most time-consuming part. We also have some projects with AI to try and make that a little bit easier with mixed results. Do it more often. Increase your frequency. Get those upgrades rolling. Just have that as your standard operating procedure. We are going to update all these things on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be monthly. It doesn't have to be quarterly. It could be weekly. Maybe you have great automation, and we were able to put together the automation to do that. Work on that tooling and automation that lets you do that within your environment. And we've sort of alluded to this, but always take a staged approach. Do this somewhere safe first where you can test it and then upgrade in production. Yeah. So those are the quick reminder, the quick summary. And we'd love to take your questions. We'd also love to chat about add-ons in the hallway afterwards. There's a mic in the middle. If you have a question, please come ask.
We're so efficient that we're running a little early. That's because of
Only 5 minutes.
It's only 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
It's because of our add-on prowess.
So efficient at add-ons that I'm talking Yeah, go ahead. So, can we get the question mic?
Mic check, 1, 2.
Should be on. Go ahead.
So have you done anything for like testing controllers for upgrades? Like I would really like for us as part, we do a lot of frequent updates to our add-ons, but I would like for us to have some form of testing to make sure my add-ons didn't break anything. So I can kind of upgrade and sort of half forget about it, just like a software dev team would do.
Yeah, we have toyed with and tinkered with some projects internally to do validation of the behaviors that we expect in the add-ons. I think of it almost as like a conformance testing. We've never really completed that effort. Mostly for us, we work with our customers to ensure that they're testing their applications in staging, and so you're getting more of an end-to-end test in the non-production environment. And so the short answer is no, but I totally agree with you. I think it's a fantastic idea, and we'd love to, see someone pursue it more.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think we got one coming.
Oh, look at that.
So we run about anywhere from 14 to 20 add-ons in our clusters. Security has us updating them monthly if there's a new release. Mm-hmm. So when you say, and even with a new release, our security tool is scanning multiple CVEs still. Mm-hmm. When you say patch, are you talking about just updating to a new release or actually trying to address the CVEs?
So we are currently talking about upgrading the image. That is, I think, the start of it. There are several companies out on the vendor floor that will provide you with images that are also patched. That is a whole nother ball of wax. But I will say, just looking at our dashboards and our security analysis, yes, it's not 0 CVEs, right? You can upgrade the image every month and you're still going to have it. And there's some that won't go away until that library's been removed from that underlying project or whatever, unless you're using one of these systems. And at the moment, I can say we are well ahead of the curve compared to our customer applications as far as CVEs go, and it's not 0. So, yeah.
Right, like what do we do if we use there hasn't been a release for 12 months, right? That's
absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, in some of those cases, we will go back and we will try to work with that community and push and make pull requests. It's not always successful, and so at that point, if your goal really truly is 0 CVEs, I think our best option is some of these, image patching or CVE-less image providers that we can work with, or building something like that yourself, which is not a small task.
Right.
right. So our security department is on our case about these CVEs, but they won't give us, or we don't have the funding for chain guard or anything like that.
Or
Yeah.
root or something like that, yeah.
Totally understand. It is a ongoing problem. I wish I had all the answers.
And cheaply. We wish we had the answers cheaply as well, because that's part of the problem.
On time, cheap,
Yeah.
or good. Pick two.